Good afternoon. My name is Scott, and I'm here with Ken. And we are fathers of children who are sexual victims. I want to first explain to all of you today that there is nothing that can be done to replace the innocence of a child once it has been taken away. My 6-year-old son's innocence was taken away because State Attorney R.J. Larissa failed to take action to remove a sexual predator from the streets. Last year, I met Ken for the first time when he informed me that the person who sexually assaulted my 6-year-old child had previously sexually assaulted his son. As you can imagine, the most frightening phone call any parent can receive is when one that says your child has been a victim of a sex crime. On that frightful day in June of 2011, a teenager hanging out at a public restroom lured my son into a restroom stall and sexually assaulted him. Since that day, my child continues to receive treatment and counseling and has obviously been thrusted into an adult world way too early for his age. My child's assailant would not have been in the park's recreation facility that morning had the state attorney's office done their job. My child would not have been molested had the state attorney prosecuted the case when they first had the opportunity. State Attorney R.J. Larissa had 2 opportunities to prosecute the child that sexually assaulted my son. First, when the teenager was arrested for assaulting Ken's child. State Attorney R.J. Larissa allowed his sentence to be nothing more than a slap on the wrist. He was not incarcerated as sexual offenders should be. He was not listed on any sexual offenders list. Instead, he was put on a deferred prosecution agreement and given the equivalent of a year's probation, some community service, an outpatient counseling program. In essence, he was allowed to roam the streets freely without supervision. Several months later, State Attorney R.J. Larissa was given a second chance to protect my son when the same juvenile violated his deferred prosecution agreement. When the authorities arrested him for burglary and learned of his prior arrest, the State Attorney R.J. Larissa refused to impose any sanctions or to take any obligation under the law to do so. Instead, he remained silent. Still today, the child's father, Ken, does not know the status of the deferred prosecution agreement. This agreement was entered 2 years ago. During the investigation of my son's case, I telephoned State Attorney R.J. Larissa, who never responded to my telephone calls, nor who responded to a certified letter that I sent to him, to which you all have been provided. What type of state attorney who is vested with the power to investigate and pursue justice ignores the pleas of fathers who are seeking justice for their children? What type of state attorney do we have? I will tell you, there are some good state attorneys. In the county where my son was sexually assaulted, the state attorney's office and the sheriff's office took immediate action to investigate and to prosecute the case. Within 6 months, the case was adjudicated and the juvenile was adjudicated delinquent and sentenced to confinement. He is also a registered juvenile sexual offender pursuant to the Florida statutes. It took 6 months from cradle to grave. R.J. Larissa in this office is still fooling around with a deferred prosecution agreement. This gentleman, Ken, has no idea what's going on. In his case, it's been going on, 3 years?
Yes.
The reason Ken and I are here today is because we want justice for our children and the future victims of child molestation. Both of us sought justice where we felt we should receive it. But instead, the state attorney's office, under R.J. Larissa's leadership, refused to do the job he was elected to do. I do not personally know R.J. Larissa or anybody who's in his office, but one thing I do know, you don't want this guy for your state attorney. Because of R.J. Larissa's failure to prosecute the case, when he had the opportunity to do so. My son has forever lost his innocence. My son will forever be remembered. My son will forever remember the day that he was sexually assaulted. My son faces years, if not a lifetime, of treatment. Myself as a father, I feel I let my son down. You can only do so much. And, you know, these things happen. But I feel remorse. I feel hurt. I feel bad for my son, as any father would. So I know the citizens of Volusia, St. Johns, and Putnam County can find someone better to serve as a state attorney who will actively pursue justice for your children. I come here today to cry out on behalf of my child, Ken's child, and every child in the Second Judicial Circuit that change is needed, and State Attorney R.J. Larissa should be fired from his job.
So are you essentially here to let people know that they should vote for R.J. Larissa, or are you here to tell us that you're taking some sort of legal action against R.J. Larissa?
I'm here to say do not vote for R.J. Larissa.
Are you taking any legal action?
I don't know if I can take legal action against Mr. Larissa. He hides behind a shield of sovereign immunity. He is protected, but my son's not protected. He wasn't protected if he was doing his, he should have been protected if he was doing his job.
So in essence, this is politically motivated.
It's not politically motivated. It goes back to when I tried to contact R.J. Larissa's office to seek help, to seek an explanation, and Ken trying to seek an explanation in the deferred prosecution agreement. We don't get any response. We don't get a phone call. We don't get an acknowledgement that, hey, we got your letter. We get nothing. I don't know if it's because we don't live in this county, and since we're just foreigners of another county, he doesn't care. But I think any father who has been victimized, whose son has been victimized of a sexual assault, when they call their state attorney, they should be able to pick up the phone, somebody in that office, and that victim's father or parent should be able to talk to the state attorney and say, yeah, this is what we're doing with your son's case. Good, bad, or indifferent, I deserve somebody at that end to pick up the phone call and talk to me.
Let me get your name real quick.
It's Ken.
It's in it.
I'm not going to give it to you. He didn't give you his. I'm not giving you mine.
What's that?
I got a son to protect also. My son's only 16 years old.
And so you tried getting some sort of information from R.J. Larissa and you didn't get it?
I've been told that the only contact I'm allowed to have with that office is a written communication. I wrote them, and then I got a response that says that once they get the sentencing deal from him, that they were going to do something. I mailed him a copy of the sentencing thing. That I got a letter dated here September 1st, 2011, and they have not responded to that.
Okay. So how old was your?
My son at the time was 13.
And how old was the rape?
It was 13. It was, well, sexual assault would say 13 also.
Was it consensual?
No, sir. Not in the least bit.
And while you're asking that question, to follow up, why, you know, when the assailant was under the deferred prosecution agreement for over, I don't know how long, he's still under the deferred prosecution agreement. You have, he's supposed to go into sexual counseling, he's supposed to be monitored. You know, when they entered into that agreement back in, I guess, February of 2010, 4 months after they entered into the agreement, Chase burglarized. And he violated the conditions of his deferred prosecution agreement.
Well, if you
in Charlotte County, he burglarized a resident, and so that violates the terms of the deferred prosecution agreement.
Since it happened in Charlotte County, was he taken into custody in Charlotte County? Was he prosecuted in Charlotte County?
Well, he was taken in custody in Charlotte County, as you can see from the information that was provided. Any more than that, I do not know. But what I do know is the deferred prosecution is under the stewardship of the 7th Circuit Judicial State Attorney's Office. So it's their decision, not Charlotte County's decision, from my understanding, that can take action under the deferred prosecution.
So you're saying that because he was, I guess, arrested in Charlotte County, R.J. Larissa should have stepped in, maybe extradited him over here, and then taken action?
Correct.
Well,
that was one of two actions. He could have prosecuted the case initially when he went into the deferred prosecution agreement, and when he violated the terms of that agreement, R.J. Larissa should have brought him in, should have charged him, should have monitored him, should have did something. Instead, not doing anything, he's in counseling, supposedly. We don't know if he ever completed counseling or not. Nobody knows.
The last paragraph of that agreement, it states that I will be notified if he violates the agreement, and I will also be notified when he completes the...
If he successfully completes the agreement.
Successfully completes it.
But
I've never been notified of either thing. I've never been, and like I say, I'm not allowed to call them. I have to do a written communication.
But my point is that, you know, when he violated the terms of the deferred prosecution agreement, he should have R.J. Larissa's office should have stepped up and did something. As a result, this kid, 13-year-old kid at the time, who sexually assaulted another 13-year-old kid's in counseling. Now he's 15. He's getting braver. And now he's sexually assaulting a 6-year-old kid. We went from a 13 to a 6-year-old kid, and we went from a campground setting to a public restroom. So whatever type of counseling he was getting, I question, because it seems to me, based upon the facts, he got worse.
So the bottom line is you want this kid taken off the streets.
Well, the kid is taken off the streets because it took the 20th Circuit to do the job.
The
bottom line is I want R.J. Larissa out of the office because he couldn't do the job. If he would have done the job, my son would not be a victim. And there's no way this man should be sitting here today, 3 years after his son was allegedly assaulted, not knowing what the conditions, what's going to happen with the deferred prosecution agreement.
Now, I have filed a formal bar complaint against Joe Boatwright for not getting back with me, not honoring the agreement that he signed. So there has been a bar complaint that's been recently mailed in.
Who's Joe Boatwright?
Joe Boatwright is the managing state attorney based out of Palatka. What's that?
I obviously haven't had a chance to read
Okay.
this.
He's the person who signed off on the deferred prosecution.
He's the one that signed off on the agreement, yes.
Do you know if he was convicted of that burglary?
No, I did not pursue or follow up.
The arrest report.
All we have is the arrest report. Whatever came beyond that, I don't know. I have you can have my copy. It's pretty basic.
Is that another copy right there? Or is that
That's
You got extra?
no here.
That's okay. I got it on camera.
Yeah, this is just extra copies of the same thing you have.
Okay.
We off camera?
Can I have a phone number to contact you later if I have more questions?
Sure. Let me.
You're an attorney,
Right.
correct?
What's that?
You're an attorney, correct? Are you? One of you is.
Well,
I'm
yeah.
assuming it's you.
Right.
Let's have your phone number.
He's doing all the talking, so.
239. I'm sorry. 941 286 8313.
Okay. 941-286-8313.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh,
I'm sorry
thank
for what happened.
Well, it is, and the part that irritates me is, you know,
You understand why I don't, I'm trying
if
to
you
protect my
guys,
son. He's
if
a
you guys
junior
called
in
him
high
as your
school.
kid,
Sure.
and you wanted to find out what's going
You're
on,
part- well,
you would have
not to
called.
worry. I won't.
Yeah,
No, I won't get
we
into
don't-
it.
I don't
It's
get
obviously-
into
You were here.
Right.
So
That's the
when
part
we have someone talking to
that
the
pisses
camera,
me off.
you notice that we put their names.
And you know, he
Yeah.
still hasn't got his answers.
Right, I understand.
I mean, you know,
I
what do we?
understand.
It isn't that we come down here, we're motivated politically. You know, I don't know
I couldn't
Judge Warren.
pick
I
Miss
don't
Warren
know,
out of a
but I
lineup.
know
You know, I
this
don't-
man
you
needs
know,
to be
I don't-
accountable.
What county are you from?
And
Sarasota.
Sarasota. And what county are you from?
Charlotte.
Charlotte.
I mean, you know, we come up here, you know, nobody gives us promises or anything. We drive up here, we take vacation days to come off work so we can just get this message out to the people. It's up to the voters to decide who they want as their state attorney's office.
I mean, you have no idea how I felt when I got the call that day that his son was assaulted, knowing full well that this office didn't do the job. I mean, I've lived with this for 3 years. Okay, I've lived with this for 3 years. You know, and it's gotten to the point, like I say, they won't take my phone calls. I'll be honest with you, I was accused of terrorizing the office because I'm an extremely upset dad. Put yourself in my shoes. Your son, you know, your child was sexually assaulted. You got a state attorney's office that won't take my phone call. They won't take my phone call.
Now, if you're from, I guess I should read this, but if you're from
Thank you very
Sarasota,
much.
where did the incident happen? That large of the reason involved?
It happened at a camp up near Palatka.
Okay, well, that's
I know it sounds confusing to
County,
say
no,
what
it's
the,
Putnam
you know,
County.
what the hell are these
No,
guys, you
yeah,
know?
no,
Boy
I
Scout
understand
camp.
now.
Yeah,
It's
it's-
happening in Palatka, so you would be involved because it's Putnam County.
Right. Putnam County Sheriff's Office investigated it. So,
Okay, got it. Okay, thank you so much.
I don't know how compelling that is, or, I mean, you know,
Well, I, as a parent, I'd be honestly concerned, yes.
and you know, I got justice for my kid at $6 under my case really
Except that, yes.
I've never
The
got,
justice
I've
that
never
you-
got,
that
I've
you were
never gotten
looking for.
close, the only closure I got in this case is I got to sit in the courtroom when they hauled him away. Not him, not
Yeah,
Scott,
they
but when,
hauled
you know,
him
the,
during his trial, yeah.
yeah, during his trial, I got to sit in the courtroom and watch him hauled away. That's the only, but I shouldn't have been sitting in that courtroom. If they would have honored this agreement, if they would have done what they said that they were gonna do, I never would have met this man. I never would have met this man.
I've spoken to R.J. Larizza's, I guess, press spokesperson, and their question is, how are they going to know after what happened in your situation that this was going to happen?
And you know what I say to that? That's what you get paid to do. You're there, when you entered into that deferred prosecution agreement, you're there to monitor the situation, to supervise, to see what's going on. You know?
There was a
It's
there was a
understand- it's
birthday-
understandable.
That is within, you don't,
Sure, but it's understandable, just thinking of it logically, it's understandable how you would want action taken after what happened here so that it wouldn't have happened there, but action was taken.
Wait a minute. 4 months. 4 months after this agreement was signed, you've got all the documents there. 4 months after this agreement was signed,
he broke
he
in
broke
burglary.
in and was charged with
Burglary.
a burglary.
So he should have been prosecuted for that, and this wouldn't
He
have happened.
violated that agreement.
Right.
At that point, he should have been
I
hauled
know you
in.
from somewhere, I don't know where.
I was in charge of the Detective Bureau for Daytona, and I was a homicide investigator for Larissa.
Oh,
I don't-
are ya?
I don't work there anymore.
But you see what I'm saying? If-
So
if-
you worked with R.J. Larizza?
Right.
And under certain normal circumstances, would something have
Oh, yeah.
happened to
When-
avoid this?
if you-
Can I interview you?
Yeah, no, you can't interview me because this is theirs. This is their interview.
But you worked with
But
Larizza's
you-
office, you
right,
would
but-
be
but-
the
No,
perfect
you can't
person to
interview. This
say.
is their thing. But it's just logical. They enter into a deferred prosecution. You violate the deferred prosecution when you commit a felony. He should have been brought back into court. He should have been incarcerated.
Larizza should have brought him
Right,
back.
Larizza
He didn't,
should have
he
brought
didn't
him
go
back.
into a store and steal a pack of bubble gum. He
That-
broke into a house. It was a felony.
It was a burglary.
4 months after he signed a deferred prosecution agreement.
And then see, and their office would not make contact with Ken, with talk or anything, and then my son's case, comes to fruition, and then Ken gets an email right at the close of our case, or
Actually, it was a letter. It was
a letter that basically, said, we're going to wait to Charlotte County, wait till their case proceeds, and then we're going to take a look at it.
Right.
And then, but
But once they had the sentencing sheet, I mailed a copy of the sentencing sheet with another letter directed to either Mr. Bustamante or Mr. Lores, I can't remember who.
Yeah.
But another letter was mailed saying, okay, you said you were going to do something after this. And they never did anything, and they still haven't done anything.
Right. Well, and even then, the attorney in Charlotte County that was in charge of the prosecution of the burglaries contacted Putnam County about the burglaries and questioned whether or not they were going to do something on the deferred prosecution before and that was just for the burglaries. Then once the sexual assault of his child happened, then Charlotte County just ran with the ball on that.
Yeah.
But they had an opportunity. How many months before?
Oh,
4 months? More than that. But anyway.
well, they had a
After
year.
A year,
the
it's a
signed
year.
deferred
That's when he broke into
prosecution
the
agreement.
home.
Deferred
When he broke into the
prosecution
home.
agreement happened February of 2010.
And-
The breaking into the dwelling happened May 6th of 2010. The assault to my kid happened June of 2011.
Right. A year later.
So over a year later, they had an opportunity to
That
do
makes better
something.
sense. That makes
Right.
better sense.
Yes.
And they didn't. And the only time they stepped up to do anything was at the very end when my case was, I don't know if it was already pleaded out or it was getting ready to be pled out. And then they say, well, we're going to wait till after Charlotte County.
Right.
And, what was that when you got that letter? September of 2011.
September 2011, yes.
So here we are in July. Still.
And you understand that his the deferred prosecution says he will be notified when he violates that deferred prosecution and when he completes it. And to this day, he's never been notified of anything. He knows about it
Right.
because these guys have
Because
become
of everything that
mutual
happened
friends.
thereafter, yeah.
But Larissa's office has not lived up to the agreement at all.
Okay, I'll question Liz about that.
Okay.
And I appreciate you bringing that up.
Okay.
That's crucial.
Do you understand that the burglary, he should have been locked up at the burglary, his kid would not have been a victim of a sexual assault.
That makes sense
Six-
now.
okay.
Yeah, it makes sense
And then
now.
so it also makes sense, if you look at the time frame of my letter of August of 2011, that's when I
Is this
wrote
here?
it. Yeah, you have it right there, and which I sent it to Mr. Larissa, and I got certified mail, and I got fax return mail. I've got it all documented, and so you look at the time that I sent that letter there, and he didn't offer me any help because at that time my son's case was still being prosecuted. Still, we didn't know if we were going to go to trial or what was happening. We were waiting for some DNA evidence to get back.
Right.
And so here I am contacting Mr. Larissa's office, reaching out for help, a grieving father, and I don't even get, thank you, no thank you, thanks for your letter, we
No
can't
response at all?
comment.
None.
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 Zero. And that's the part that irritates me. I'm a taxpayer like everybody else. When our kids get victimized, we should be able to pick up that phone and be able to call the state attorney's office or somebody in his office.
You don't expect to be an abandoned victim, do you? No.
That's basic 101.
All right, I'll ask Liz about that. I'll ask him about that. Because now
Thank
it makes
you.
better sense.
Thank you.
I mean, I'm not,
Thanks for stepping in.
I can
Even
tell
though you
you
don't want on.
there's confusion going on.
Well, of course.
But-
We're starting from the bottom floor, trying to make sense of everything that's going on.
Yeah, and you didn't have time to read all that before, no.
No, of course not. It was just handed to me. And logically, because it's during an election year, and you represent the challenger, it sounds like it's all politically motivated. On top of that, you're saying we don't want this guy elected, so the entire thing smacks of being politically motivated.
and see, my thing from the very beginning of all this, because Ken has always been out there contacting the state attorney's office, seeking help, and my thing was, I knew this day would come. This is the only way you can make a state attorney accountable for his actions. I mean, when you got a problem at a normal job or something, people get fired. The only people who can fire the state attorney is the voters. And all my purpose is to get my story out to the voters.
So that this doesn't happen to another parent.
It doesn't have to another parent, but the processing of how they process the deferred prosecution agreement, the whole way Ken's case was managed, that's at heart of the issue too. You need to look at your state attorney's office. You need to look at other people like this so it doesn't happen.
Okay,
That's all the voters, and let the chips fall where they may.
got it. I'm going to contact Larissa's office and see if I can get a response from them.
Okay.
It is
I
clear now.
do want it known that, that there was a bar complaint filed against Joe Boatwright for not following through with this. I mean, there's no way that, I'm the same boat as him. I took a day off. I took a day off for work, some vacation day. I because everybody went to Daytona Beach for vacation.
Yeah.
But, nobody else should be getting a phone call like that. I had to get to say that the same kid that did this to your son did it to somebody else. And read the agreement before you talk to them. I'm not
Okay.
telling you
No,
how
no.
to do your
I
job,
agree.
but it says right in there, I was supposed to be notified, and I never was.
Okay.
So did I look into the camera?
Very good.
Well, you gotta try to talk to the other
And
day.
I hate this
Today, absolutely today.
political
Well,
vote.
it's gonna be on tonight.
The problem is they have to make that assessment.
I can tell you that's why